Hey everyone, it's Friday, so let's get into our DIY bucket this week. This week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. You may also notice you see my face. That is going to be because we're going to be doing a hand-tied bouquet. So I want you to be able to see it from the front and the way that we're going to add it to our vases. So it has to have a little bit higher thing. So hello, nice to see you all. So this week in our bucket, we have a couple of different hydrangea, and that's what we're going to get started with. Since we're doing a hand-tied bouquet, or what we call here sometimes a chop and drop, you want to get everything out of your bucket first, and then you want to work with it. So what we're going to do is take out all of our ingredients, clean them up, and then we're going to put them back together in a hand-tied bouquet, and then we're going to pop them in one of our vases so that it's a little bit more of a modern design. So we have these hydrangeas. We have 2 large emerald green hydrangea, and we have 2 mini green hydrangea. And we're going to do the same thing that we do with them when we're designing in chicken wire or with the raffia wire. We're going to cut off our nubs on the sides of the stems here and make sure our stems are super clean. That's really important. So we're going to go through and make sure our clean stems are happening for us. And that's going to make it easier for us too, moving forward, to make the bouquet in our hands and to trim them and to make adjustments within the bunch. To get started, you're going to need something to bind it all together. So if you are a DIY person and you have some raffia wire, bind wire, this is what we use typically here for our bouquets. You can also use floral tape. A lot of people like to use that. Wax wire works. If you don't have any of those things and you want to just work with spool wire, you can do that as well. That's available from a hardware store as well as from here. Any of these DIY tools that you need, we do have available here as well. So you can always hit us up and we can get those over to you. So we have our hydrangea, and that's going to serve kind of as a base like we would do with our we tie it together with raffia wire and then put the flowers into it. Kind of similar what we're going to do, but in our hand this time. So then we're going to clean our roses. So these also, you don't want to get stuck with any spikes. So we're going to make sure our stems are super clean and make sure there aren't any even of those little tiny thorns left. So I'm just going to trim those off. If, again, you are into the DIY and you have a rose scraper, you can do that to go a little bit faster if you want to clean your stems faster. The only problem with the rose scraper that I have found is that it kind of like bruises up the exterior membrane of your stem. And when that happens, it sheds a lot more plant material into the water, which of course will create more bacteria growth because it's going to have your water getting a little messier. So when I don't have that many roses to clean, I choose to just use a knife or scissors or clippers just to trim those thorns off instead. That works better for me. So you have 3 of these. Now these are called Antonia roses, and they are super gorgeous. They're garden rose. They're kind of like an in-betweeny, so they do have a slightly longer shelf life than a traditional garden rose, and they have a little bit firmer of a neck, which is nice to work with. Also in our bucket, we have these awesome Aloha roses. So these are just a regular variety of rose, but they have like such a pretty color. And now that we're getting into the warmer weather, it's in a lot of our spring and summer collection items. So we are getting them in stock now too. So we should have these in the shop on the regular as well. So you will have 4 of these guys in your bucket as well. There we go. I'm not cleaning any petals off yet. I'm just getting my stems good to go. Get all these little bits off. There we go. Perfect. And then we're gonna have some tulips because we only really have them in the shop for not that long. So while they're here, we like to use them. So they have lots of foliage on them. You're gonna wanna take that off. When you take the foliage off, I find it's easier to tear it rather than strip it. Because then again, when you strip it, it usually catches a piece of the stem and peels it down. And when that happens again, it is degrading that exterior membrane of your stem, and it is getting that into the water. So the less you can damage the stem, the better. So sometimes I'll even just trim them off flush. And if you have a damaged one, I'm gonna trim that off as well. Just bend it back, pull it off. Oops, there we go. And these are a double bloom tulip. So they have lots of petals on there, which is super nice. Here's one here. Now for this one, I've got a nice little curly stem. I might just leave, or a curly leaf, I'm just gonna leave that on since it's not damaged. Same here, you can see you have this larger leaf here at the bottom. I'm just gonna trim that off. So that is not in the way as we get designing. There we go. And you should have 5 of these in your bucket. Now, if your leaves are still nice and straight up like this, you can go ahead and leave them on. It gives the stem a little bit more space in the bouquet. It holds it out from the other flowers so that it doesn't compress the tulip against the other blooms. There we go. So I got that one pretty clean there. Next we have, so we just started getting them in the shop, so I had to put them in the buckets. We have peonies. So these awesome white peonies, and right now, so fragrant. These are also notorious for having these little knobs that come off the sides, like where the greens come off. So just make sure you are cleaning that stem really well. Go. Oops, hold on over here. And if you have any nice foliage on your stem that's up near the top and you want to keep it on, go for it. I'm going to trim mine off because it's all going to end up underneath where I'm tying my blooms. So I'm just going to take that off so it's not in the way. I'm going to take this guy off too because he's kind of not helping. And then if you have a tighter ball like this, it will open on its own, so you don't really need to force it. But if you do want to force it, you can just kind of go along the outsides like that and just start to open the outside petals a little bit. If it's a super tight ball, and there weren't any super tight balls in the buckets this week, so no one that's actually designing along from home has that to worry about. But if you are working with them, sometimes it'll help to like dip them in water to help get some of that sap off. Tap them against your table. That will help to just start breaking up these petals that are tight in the middle to kind of get that to start opening. So just tricks if you do have a nice super tight one. Sometimes here at the shop, if they come in crazy tight, we'll have to make like a little steam tent, and we'll cut them into super hot water because, as you know, the hot water will help progress the bloom, make it open more. It works for roses, any flower really. So put in super hot water and then put like a plastic bag or something over the top so that the steam coming off from the water, the heat coming off from the water, then like helps open those blooms in the tent also. So if you get stuck with some super tight blooms, that's also a good trick to force them faster. Next, we have some Cresspedia or Billy balls, which I love. These do not really require any cleaning, which is great. So I'm just gonna put those right on over here. Let's see here. And we have some Queen Anne's lace. I think this is a green mist variety, but it actually has like a nice big bloom. So I included those in the buckets for something a little bit softer this week. These also are pretty knobby. So again, you just wanna go through and trim any of those little knobs off. But it is just kind of the nature of the stem that it is going to be a little bit bendy like this, so we just kind of have to work with it. And then we have some Israeli ruscus. Israeli ruscus is great because it's nice because it is nice and linear, and it also fills, so you can kind of create space between your blooms so you can see through the bouquet as well, or you can use it around the bottom as well, like a collar. So very versatile. So now that we have all of our flowers laid out and cleaned, course, what I want to use first is on the bottom. So we're going to get out our hydrangeas and start with those. So as you remember, we had the 2 emerald hydrangeas. So we're going to plop them together, get off any of these greens that are going to get in the way, get those out of here, and then start with like a little round mound. Okay. Then we're going to layer in our mini green hydrangea on top of those. So I'm going to do 2 of those. I'm going to kind of go right in between, just so they sit on top. It just creates a little bit of layering and a little bit of movement just in like the slight difference in color and the slight difference in petal shape. So we'll get those in there and size. You can leave some of these greens on. I'm leaving those on because I think they're kind of pretty. And then I usually start with my biggest blooms first. I am going to go with my Antonia roses first because they have a nice strong stem, and also they have this large bloom. So with these guys, you really just want to take 1 or 2 of the petals off the outside. Do not overpick. Just any of the icky petals, kind of like the petals on, you know, like a head of lettuce or whatever. If they look a little small or they're not looking great, just pull them off, and then it'll continue to open from there. I'm gonna go through my hydrangea. You can see underneath kind of all of these radials coming off from the hydrangea, the same way it would be if we were designing in a vase, but we're just doing it in our hands. So you're gonna go through, and you just wanna go into your hand as if your hand is the vase. So we're gonna start making crisscrosses as we go around. So you don't have to work specifically in any kind of fashion, you know, do you wanna do triangles? Do you wanna do them all bunched together? You can really pick whatever you like there. But I'm gonna use that hydrangea to help hold the blooms apart so they're not all mashed up on each other. There we go. Next, I'm gonna go in with these guys. So the Aloha roses are not the next largest bloom, that would be the peonies, but I don't want to sink the peonies in and lose them. So I'm going to put all of my foundational flowers in first and then put my peonies in on top. So with these guys, again, pluck a couple of the outside petals off. You don't have to get wild with it. Give them a little blow. They don't open up massively. You can give them a little bit of a roll too if you want to get them a little more cracked, but for the most part, you're just going to get them about this size. So once they have the petals off and a little bit of movement in the center, they will continue to open in your bouquet. So just get them started, get them into the arrangement. Again, if the petals are kind of in the way, get rid of them. If the petals are nice and you like the way they look in the arrangement, and keep them on. And just work with the natural shape of your stem. This one's a little bendy, so I'm going to put it around the outside, like so. I'm going to go through this green hydrangea. Oops. All right, so right now, kind of got 3 and 3. I've got this one extra dude, so I'm gonna put him right in the middle. Now you don't have to keep everything at the same height either. You can play with your spacing at this point. So if you wanna have one in the center sunken in a little bit and pull these out a little bit, that also works really well, just so everything's not all one level. Okay, so I'm gonna get that guy in there. So we got something going like that. Yeah. Just continue to adjust in your hand. And there we go. This guy in the middle does not want to be in the middle, but that's okay. I want to let him do his thing. Next we have the tulips. So I'm going to put those in. And they're going to end up going wherever they go, and I'm going to be okay with it. Because they have bendy stems and because they can be kind of fragile, I'm not going to micromanage it. I'm just going to lay them in there, and where they go, and they will be beautiful. We're not going to worry about it. Get this guy in the center here a little bit. Okay. Actually, I'm going to take my middle guy out because he has kind of a bendy neck. I'm going to move this straight one into the center. There we go, tuck him in, and then put my bendy guy back outside here. So, just keep readjusting as you go. Oops, get this petal off. Make sure everybody has room. You don't want anybody taking anybody else's space. So make sure everybody's got some room to breathe in the bouquet. Keep working our way around. Creating space for all of our blooms. There we go. And colors are coming together really nicely too. These middles and the Antonia roses are so great, and they really pull in that creamsicle color from the Aloha roses. Then we've got our billy balls. Actually, let me do my peonies next because my peonies are going to take up some space, and the billy balls can be boiny. You want those billy balls. So when I put this in, I'm going to pull it into my bouquet, but I'm going to let it hover a little bit. This will continue to grow and open, so we don't want to pull it all the way down in there, because if we do, we're going to end up with a peony that does not open, and that is no fun. So I'm going to tuck this right in here. You should have 2 of these peonies in your bucket as well. Adjust everyone as we go, so it's a nice kind of layered round arrangement, not too moundy, but also not too asymmetrical. Now we can get to our billy balls, and these are super fun. So you can use them in deep for texture in between the 2 buds or blooms, or you can have them popping out to create a little bit of fun, a little bit of space in your arrangement. So we will tuck these guys into our arrangement as well. Yes, they can be seen. If they're competing with another bloom, then push them out or pull them in, depending on where you want to see that color. There we go. Make sure you can see them all around. Okay. And then we have our Queen Anne's lace. I'm just gonna have this pop in here like little clouds. They're gonna float above the rest of our arrangement. Create a little bit of movement. Oh, these guys are extra excited. Get this guy in here. There we go. And here we go. So I have all of these guys going on. They're gonna move around a little bit. You can pull these billy balls out a little, pull your tulips out a little, create a little bit of movement in your arrangement. Push some things to the foreground, some things to the background, make it work. Okay. All right, and then once you have these guys in, you can use our Israeli rusticus to come around the outside, so you can make sort of kind of fill in sort of pinwheel fashion around the exterior, or if you have places on the inside of your flowers that need to be filled, you can go in between to fill those up as well. Kind of work them into the hydrangea as you go. And make sure you're cleaning the bottoms off so there isn't any of the leaves underneath where your hand is. That way it doesn't get into the water and make the water all nasty. All right, keep moving these guys around. All right, it's a little bit round. 1, 2, one guy over here. And one guy, just gonna clean this off, over here. All right, so make sure you're looking at it. Kind of generally round, but with a little bit of movement going on. So these guys are kind of touching each other. I don't like that, so I'm gonna reposition this so that the Billy Ball and the Queen Anne's lace are not occupying the same exact space. They can each kind of stick out and create their own movement without squashing the other. There we go. All right, there we go. Getting there, getting there, getting there. So the next part is tricky. So you want to cut all of your stems off even. You don't have to cut them to the length that you need them to be yet. We're gonna wait to do that until we measure them to our leaves. But just so it's easier to work with, if you have super long stems and you're trying to wrap around it and keep hitting yourself with the stems, it's super annoying. So take a good amount of length off of your stems first before you wrap. Then we're gonna use whatever your wrapping medium is of choice. I'm gonna use the bind wire. And you're gonna take a piece that is about a foot and change, maybe. What is that? Yeah, like a foot and change. And then you're gonna go around where your hand is. So you can see here. And then tight once around, twice around, see? And then you're gonna pull both of your sides off in one direction. And you're gonna twist them, like a twist tie, as tight as you can. So you're gonna have something like that when you're done. You're gonna trim off your excess, okay? Make sure it's nice and neat looking. You don't want a whole bunch of sloppy back and forths. And then we're gonna measure to our base and pop it all in there. So I have one more typical base. This is one we've used before, just a design right in the base. And then I have one that's a little more interesting. Just wanna make sure that the opening is large enough to get the flowers in there. So depending on what your look is that you're going for, this one might give a little bit more of a modern look, this one a little bit more traditional, but you're gonna measure your stems to your base, and then you'll pop them in there. So I want this to kind of sit off to one side. So this one looks fine, these look too long. So I'm gonna trim them so that they are the same as this. And you always wanna be cautious when you're cutting, because you can certainly cut a little more off, but you can't add the stem back on. Once it's cut, it is cut. So measure twice, cut once, is that what they say? All right, I'm gonna go into my base and I'm gonna tip it to one side, just for like a kind of cool modern look. And then we have this nice, display, like so. Now, this is another thing too, if you wanted to make a bunch like this and gift it to somebody, this is a great way to display your bunch in something kind of more artful. Just make sure when you fill it with water, you're filled up so that all of your stems are going in to the water. I'm gonna make a couple of adjustments here. Once it's in the base, I can see that I do not like this Billy Ball and is going to have to move. So let me do that. Okay. It's like going the total wrong direction. It's getting my nerves. All right, there we go. All right, so now you can get it in there and pop it to the side and we're good to go. So super fun, kind of cool way to display your flowers. If you get grocery store flowers, or if you get a bouquet from a friend or like a host gift or something like that, this is also a cool way to arrange it so that you don't have to take the whole thing apart and start from scratch and redesign it in something else. This way you can kind of just use it as a thing, use your hand, maybe like put a piece of tape or a piece of wire around it and kind of readjust it so it's a little bit rounder, and then just pop it in a vase on an angle and it gives a really cool modern look. Okay, so you could also, if you wanted to, go a little bit more traditional and just pop it in flat. So this is what I was saying, we call it a chop and drop. So you can get it generally kind of round, measure it so it's gonna sit right on top. I'm gonna take a little bit more off than we did with the other one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that off of there. Whoa, it's everywhere. I used to be able to aim it perfectly, so it would just go right to the, oh, it didn't do it. Kinda. Okay, so with this, I'm gonna put it in first. Oh, a little bit too long, trim a little shorter. Let me try to do it again. Can I do it? Oh, almost, okay. Let's try to hit the camera. My aim is not as good as it used to be. All right, here we go. Now, and there we go. So nice. And now it could just be a centerpiece. It could be a coffee table arrangement, anything you want. And once it's in there and you have this little tied spot, it makes it easy for you to adjust in the vase too. Like now you've got your proportion, so you can get in there and maybe pull something out a little bit. Maybe you don't like this guy because he's all pointy looking and weird. Give everyone a little space. Add a little greens from your garden around the bottom. Why not? And now loosen up a little bit. Now you have a really lovely arrangement. There we go. It's a little bit more traditional looking, but perfect for several different places in your house, and has the mechanics built right in there, which is super perfect as well. So here we go. So if you got the bucket this week and you want to give this a try, rather than using our regular methods, go for it. Or if you're just inspired to grab some loose stems and do something similar, we usually work in 3s, and then we go to 5s, 6s, and 8s. So typically we would start with a base of hydrangea, and then your larger blooms, you're gonna wanna do 3 to 5. So we kind of split the difference on this one with the peonies. So we have these Antonia roses and the peonies are sort of like our 5 larger placements in this similar color. Then we did these guys in between. Now this one we did 4 because we were working between the 3 and the 5. So I sunk 1 in the center and did 3 around the outside. You could certainly do 5 and go 2 of these on either side of the 2 peonies, and then 3 in between the larger Antonia roses. That works too. And you can have fun with it as well and group the flowers together instead of keeping them all spread out. Maybe you want to do all of your roses to one side. Maybe you want to do all of your tulips coming out one way. Really, the sky is the limit. It's like so much fun. You can do any style, really. Maybe that's what we'll do next week, was everything kind of grouped and modern in like a ceramic container. I'll have to remind myself of that. All right, but for now, we are done. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about flower varieties, counts, how we selected our flowers, how long they last, care instructions, anything like that, please just drop your questions in the comments. Leave any comments for us, what kinds of things you want to see, different design styles, etc., different flowers, and we will do our best to answer those questions and put out some content that y'all want to see. So let us know, give us some feedback, certainly follow us, and if you're in our area in Baltimore, Maryland, stop in and come check out our cooler, come check out all of our stems, our bulk options on our website, all available for you to peruse. So check us out, drop us a line. We look forward to hearing from you, and happy designing.